He said, my wife's brother's a doctor and his mate's going to do it and he's $900. But there's just one challenge that now when he gets an erection, he gets to the right angles. Post-op, I woke up and I was alive, so I was happy. She sort of moved around a bit and you might say, might have touched me a couple of times in the process. After a couple of minutes, I said, you're not a nurse, are you? People who are constantly passing away and dying. It's ridiculous. And this is a manageable disease.
Welcome back, Dick. Good to see you again, mate.
Welcome, Steve.
We're down to the meaty end of it now, literally. You know, we've talked about your clinical signs, we've talked about your diagnosis, we've talked about your family decision, and now you come back from holidays and you're going to go to surgery. So, and you're having physiotherapy to improve your pelvic floor and all that sort of stuff. I don't know, did that help at all?
Helped a lot.
Helped a lot, good.
Helped a lot. And it's sort of, I still remember.
Was there any moment during that you thought, do I really need the surgery?
No. I was on a bus in Germany doing the pelvic floor exercises while I was stowing outside.
I read about that.
Yeah. It was in all the papers.
Crazy Aussie tourist.
That's right. But when we got home, it was time. It was showtime.
Okay.
And so it was booked in, prepared, said goodbye to everyone, you never know, and was wheeled into the operating theatre. And as I mentioned before, probably got a little bit teary thinking, things might be a bit different when I come out of this. But at the end of the day, it had to be done. So I was very comfortable. I knew I'd done everything right, so I was very comfortable.
Yep.
Post-op, I woke up and I was alive, so I was happy.
But you picked a great surgeon. And did he physically do the surgery, or was it robotic surgery?
No, he used the robot, and I had heard that another fellow was using the robot and the nurse bumped his arm accidentally and he circumcised the bloke. So,
is that a true story?
No, of course not. So I was a little concerned about the robot. No, he'd done many, many operations with the robot. I felt the robot was as precise as it could be.
Right.
And it turned out to be correct.
So I've done a lot of surgeries in my career, but I've never actually removed a prostate. So what was the surgical procedure? You're knocked out, you say you don't know what's going on, but obviously they explain to you what's going on.
Yeah, they cut you open. And
where? Is it endoscopic or is it cut your guts right open?
Well, I've still got where they've entered.
Yeah.
And then they went down with the robot, took the prostate out.
Yes.
And obviously removed it 100%, which was great.
Yeah.
And by taking it, took the cancer with it.
Which, as a surgeon, that's a delicate surgery. So you've got this gland that's wrapped around the urethra, which is this critical pipeline from your bladder to the outside world. So this is literally sort of wrapped itself around the prostate and taken the whole lot out and from 4 spots, yeah?
But precisely. But the interesting thing, Steve, is that not only did I trust the robot then, there's now robots everywhere. And it's priceless. Well, it's not priceless, but it's so precise, or as precise as you can get. So I've got.
Well, you said he didn't miss you.
No.
And this is 14 years ago. So do you think that the cost of the surgery might be an inhibitor to people, or is that covered by Medicare?
No. But it's different today.
Right.
There's so many more machines, supply and demand, basic tenet of economics, and so with that the prices come down. But at the time I got it done, one of my best mates I went to boarding school with, I rang him and I said, I've got prostate cancer, how are you going anyway? And he said, well, I've got prostate cancer too. So we almost got it on the same day. And I said, well, let's do our research.
Something at the boarding school?
No. Let's just do our research and see how we're going to move forward. So I came back to him a couple of weeks. This is my mate Foxy, and I said, mate, I've looked into it. It's not cheap, but I've got, I believe, the best guy to do it. And he said, what's going to cost? I said, 18 grand. And he said, well, I've got a price over here in Czechoslovakia. He said, my wife's brother's a doctor and his mate's going to do it and he's $900. And
I said, a dentist?
I said, no, he wasn't a dentist. Well, I said, Foxy, you can't be serious. I mean, we do the best possible, whatever we can to make the outcome as best as possible. And he said, oh, no, I'm sticking with this bloke. I've heard he's pretty good and he's cheaper. And so I said, okay, well, we both had our operations and fortunately both surprised, both survived. But there's just one challenge that now when he gets an erection, he gets to the right angles.
But at least he gets an erection.
And that was true. And we thought we might send him off to the Department of Defence to use him as a radar or something.
A periscope.
A periscope, not to mention his partner's got to start on the side bench. But the point is that there can be some downside. He was most happy for me to mention. I rang him and I said, it's one of the funniest things I've ever come across. We all know that the surgery can be a little challenging, and he didn't mind. He said if it makes a difference to any one person to see what he's come out with at the other end, he's happy. He realised he took the risk, but he's alive. He's seen his kids grow up.
Sure.
And that was terrific.
So to my earlier question, if the cost of the surgery is pretty high, and in your case it was, I mean, $18,000 14 years ago is probably about 50 grand today. How much of that is covered by the public healthcare system?
Oh, not even 10%.
Wow. So it's a significant financial commitment.
Yeah, but that was then.
Yes.
It's different now.
Right.
There's robots everywhere. So the price has come down significantly.
Right. Okay.
So, at a point in time, someone's the leader of the pack, they're doing it, they're well sought after, they can almost charge when they set their own price. But having said that, now the market is completely streamlined, flatlined, then the price has come off significantly.
Okay.
So
That's
the robot's an option, and there are other forms of treatment. I'm not a doctor, and I've got to be careful what I say, but at that time the treatments were still regarded as maybe affecting the outcome of the surgery if the treatments didn't work. So I opted for the surgery because I wasn't prepared to take that risk.
Yep.
Nowadays, you just do your research. Do your research, and then you can work out. It's certainly much more sophisticated today, and therefore it's a much better market to go into than me and one of my best mates in Czechoslovakia. I did have a funny situation myself.
Yep.
The fourth day after surgery, I was lying in bed, still probably wrestling with the catheter a bit, and I was sort of not sure whether it was right or wrong, and you worry about these things. And a uniformed woman came out of a door across from where my room was, so I called her in for some assistance. I thought, she can tell me if it's right. And I said, look, what do you think about the catheter? Is it sort of set right? And she sort of moved it around a bit, and you might say might have touched me a couple of times in the process, which I thought was a little unusual. But anyway, that's what happened. And then I looked at her, and after a couple of minutes I said, "You're not a nurse, are you?" And she said, "No, I'm the cleaner." So
that's a true story.
That's an absolute true story. So she scurried off, and I was lying there thinking of a litigation or something, which of course I didn't do, but I never expected that would happen. So every day when she'd come out of what turned out to obviously be her mop cupboard in a uniform very akin to a nurse, she'd scurry off that way out of embarrassment. But she did come in, and she had a little bit of a feel down there, you might say. The good thing is that I could feel it. So I had some sensitivity.
Okay.
So as funny as it was,
and so she did. So did she. But
that's right. So she did. 3 days later, I went home. So I'd been in for about 7 or 8 days. I went up to bed and sort of had a sleep, and my wife was downstairs cooking. And after a couple of hours, she came up, and I was just lying. She said, "How you going?" I said, "Good." And she had a couple of wines while she was cooking. I said, "Just be a little careful near that catheter, the tube, because it could be a bit problematic." She said, "Oh, no, I'm all right." And next minute, she's walked into the damn thing. Well, I can tell you, I nearly went through the effing roof. I used some words I hadn't even heard of. And she turned her back to me, and I could see her face moving, which meant, and her shoulders, that she was laughing. And I then realised that my marriage probably didn't have a long way to go.
You mentioned a little while ago that, things have moved on a lot since 14 years ago. Now, I'm a mad cricket fan, and, was there when Glenn McGrath sadly lost his wife Jane to breast cancer, and then created the McGrath Foundation.
What a great job he's done.
What a magnificent thing that's become. So we have the pink day at the SCG test every year, and the McGrath Foundation is now a seriously big organisation, and it's embraced far more other cancers than breast cancer. But I'm not really aware of organisations, certainly not to that magnitude, that deal with prostate cancer.
No, there's not. No, it's a.
And isn't that a problem?
Well, it isn't. It is and it isn't. It's a problem because nothing's been done, and it isn't a problem because something can be done.
Well, so it's an opportunity.
Initially I just wanted to, working in health as I do and on a national basis and hearing from pharmacists predominantly and doctors to a lesser extent, but certainly pharmacists, of people who are constantly passing away and dying. It's ridiculous. And this is a manageable disease. And so therefore, the first step is to have a chat like this and say, come on, guys, let's get serious. It's not the end of the world. You might think it is, but you've really got to prepare yourself and go about it, because otherwise it's just stupid. I'm not saying anyone's stupid, but if you don't follow the procedure that can prevent a preventable death, then that's stupid.
Well, Dick, I read an alarming statistic that about 1 in 8 Australian men will develop prostate cancer. Now, that's a big number.
I reckon it's probably higher than that, and I only say that because I am aware that a lot of men are not seeking advice.
Correct.
And so therefore...
So those numbers can only be based on the ones that are
relevant. That's right. So the relevant stats would depict that. I think it's higher, and it doesn't have to be. But, to survive, it's 14 years and I'm alive. I climbed a bloody mountain after I did. I rang a mate of mine after I got out of hospital and said, I was so enthused, I said, do you want to ride a bike around Australia with me? That's how ridiculous I was. And he had just got out of bed, just woke up, and he went, oh, all right. And I thought, wow, that was amazing that he agreed.
Yeah, right.
But for me to be so euphoric to think that I just had a new lease of life.
Sure.
So by ignoring that option and that moment of enjoyment, knowing that you're still alive and it's probable that you're going to be okay, it resonates.
Yeah. So the post-op process, the catheter eventually comes out. Tell me about that.
Well, I went into my surgeon's nurse's office and she said to lie on the bed. But before I'd gone in there, a doctor had come out and he was a little upset with the world because he had to have the catheter in for a little bit longer. Sometimes that happens. Don't worry. I heard later, only several days later, that he was very happy. It had to be done for a reason. So even the bad things, the worst things, they're not retrievable, but solvable. So I went in, fortunately, the nurse said to me, advised me to lie on my back and to cough. And I did cough, and at the same time the catheter exited from my penis, and I probably was as happy as one could be under those circumstances.
Right.
Left, went home, and immediately realised that the nappy stories were true.
So, Dick, let's talk about nappies or diapers, as some people like to call them.
Well, the big thing is buy them in bulk because you'll need them. At my time, 14 years ago, I would march into the chemist and demand nappies and, thinking, well, I'm going to say it's from a neighbour who's broken his leg, etc. But I just went in and got them. They've heard everything before. They don't care. They know that men's health is a big thing, certainly. So I just bought the nappies, wore them. And I will tell you, some strong advice is that wear them, and particularly if you're with friends that tell a lot of jokes. Because if you laugh unexpectedly, you will wet yourself.
Literally pissing yourself laughing.
Yeah, you're literally pissing yourself laughing. So at the end of the day, you've got to be careful. You'll never wear light-coloured pants again. It'll always be black or navy blue. Get used to it. In the first 6 months, it's as you teach yourself control. I don't now. It's great. But you will have leakage. Occasionally, you can wake up where the bed's a bit warm. Don't think it's the end of the world. Don't think you're losing control. It can happen. Just be sensible. If you're going to have a big night out and drink probably too much, wear a nappy to bed. Certainly in the first 6 months. And it happens even after that. And men are very open about it with other men who've had a similar problem. So the nappies is part of it. It's definitely something you adhere to and doesn't show that much. It's not the end of the world. Nappies are there for a reason. Do not worry about them. There are other things to take into account, though. One is shrinkage. Your penis ain't the same as it was once before. And I will tell you that as far as myself, as far as I'm concerned, that probably wasn't something that I was terribly happy about. But some of my other mates, and we've all played footy together and done different things have sort of said, well, yes, it does get a bit smaller, and it certainly does. And what you'll find is often when you're walking through town, you might have to rearrange yourself a little bit. I've got it down to such a fine art that I'll do it while I'm walking. My daughter did say to me at one stage, Dad, did you just rearrange yourself or fix yourself? And I said, I might have, but at the end of the day, it's now something that's just part of your life. I mean, I'm comfortable in talking about this now because there's plenty of guys out there who maybe take this a lot more seriously than they should. It's a fact of life. If you're alive and breathing, then you're in front. And there's some downside of that. If someone said to you, you're going to need a nappy occasionally or wear it for the first 6 months but stay alive, you'd take it every day of the week.
So next episode, let's talk about life and sex life after surgery. But just to wrap up today, was there post-surgical physiotherapy? You talked about it pre-surgery and improving pelvic floor strength and things like that. Was physio part of the post-surgery process?
I engaged in some physio for a while, but the good work, the hard work was done prior to the operation and it worked. And so I still engaged in it, but I was very careful because you're a little bit tender afterwards and you've got to heal, which happens quite quickly. But at the end of the day, the control you teach yourself to control and to literally not pee when you don't have to. You actually learn control. It's amazing. Right. And that strengthening of the muscles, it helps round the bladder in that area. It helps enormously. So, yeah, post-surgery, I mean, you're alive. Are there going to be some problems? Yeah, sure. Are they life-threatening problems? No. Yeah. It can come back if they don't get it all. But if you treat it properly, you're increasing your chances enormously to get the cancer before it gets into your bones. And that's the whole purpose of our discussion today.
When we catch up next time, let's talk about sex life after surgery.
Okay, well, that's something to talk about for sure. And I really appreciate it. So if people do take something out of this, then it's worthwhile because hopefully we can make a little bit of a difference and move on from there.
We hope you got something out of this episode. If you did, chances are you know someone else who will. So let them know about the podcast too. And we'd love it if you rate this on your podcast app. We want to spread this far and wide and hopefully save some lives. Thanks for listening.